January. Trucks and SUVs were shining, and the group certainly was higher. That's the latest. Charles, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nicole. Here to help us sort it all out, the investment pros. Danny Hughes, Divine Capital CEO, is back with us, looking fantastic in that red dress. Jim Frischling, president of UOL.
And they're struggling. They're confused. I think right now, though, buy and hold. Quit trying to do that. The market's going higher.
What do you think, Danny?
I'm a long-term buyer, like Matt just said. I look at the long term, and I think long-term, you've got to buy this market, and you've got to continue to buy this market.
What if you're in a name, though? Because I get the emails all the time. For some reason, no one who ever watched the show bought Boeing. or Under Armour or any. But here's the thing. People seem to focus on the highest risk ideas. I think it's human nature. A lot of times because the share price is low. Doesn't mean it's cheap, but they correlate that to being cheap.
And also they look at the volatility. Hey, this was up 20% just a couple of months ago. It can go right back there. But, you know, if you're looking at a long-term play, you've got to look at things like stability and dividends and things that are kind of boring. But over time, that's where you really make your money.
And you can mix in bigger industrial names, big manufacturing proxies like Caterpillar, Chicago Bridge and Iron. So this brings us to our next real deal. Are we starting to see a little bit of a light back at the end of the tunnel here? Is manufacturing coming back? I mean, Danny, I know Caterpillar has been down a lot. Chicago Bridge and Iron has been absolutely decimated. So you can argue these are dead cat bounces.
Well, and also Boeing, to your point, you know, they knocked the cover off the ball as well, and U.S. Steel as well. So, you know, a lot of these players that are in those beat-up spaces of commodities have actually seen a turnaround in their stocks. So I think that we'll continue to see that for the time being while oil stays cheap. But all bets are off the table.
But what about the notion of some sort of rebuilding? We've been talking about a manufacturing renaissance in America for a long time.
CapEx, though, we saw a lot of CapEx investment, but I think that we've seen a pullback on CapEx investment here and there because a lot of companies have been paying to buy their stock back. And that, unfortunately, is just a big, huge hole you're throwing.
But I think a lot of these names were up today.
And where businesses just simply are not investing. Listen, we've had the ethical discussion on this show, Danny, about whether or not, the companies that are spending so much money to protect share price, dividends, buybacks, fire people, dividends, buybacks. I mean,
cut costs.
Cut costs. Yeah.
Yeah, and to what end? So, 6 million jobs were lost after the cratering of the global economy, and only about 1 million jobs came back. So, we can let efficiency take the center stage for that, because I think there's been a lot of efficiency built in the last 6 to 8 years in terms of end-to-end of our economy, but that's not everything.
A concrete manufacturing.
But I don't think we take off now because I don't think we've actually solved the demand side of the equation.
Well, let's say oil doesn't take off. Can these oil stocks keep going, though, Danny?
Yeah, I think so. I think there have been a lot shaved off because of what's happened in the oil market. But, the fact is, in my opinion, we need some big blow-up. We need some like Enron situation. We need something to really happen to call that.
So you would have dropped 2 nukes on Nagasaki, not just one. You would have been like, let's make sure.
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, one of those bottoms might be.
You guys prefer the TD Ameritrades, the Charles Schwabs. I like the a little bit more established, pay a small fee, but get the services as well.
Yeah, I would agree. You're not looking at any kind of long-term aspect. It's really a trading platform, and that's it. If your daughter is learning how to trade, there's a lot of other better places out there.
But if she's sitting in front of a screen with like a headphone and a mic on, she should go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talk about like TD Ameritrade. I think it's like 8 or.
Okay, Danny, I know how you are when it comes to these kind of names. You're always skeptical.
No, I am. And many of these names aren't even making any money, so it makes me even more skeptical because, then their only hope is to be bought out. But
they're growing at a pace that maybe doesn't necessarily correlate with the share price, but they have a future though, like a FireEye.
Possibly.
I think I don't know what's up with management. I think this stock should actually be higher, consider all the all the problems that we've had with all these security breaches.
Yeah, well, it's a hot topic, right? But it's had a $97 high and a $24 low. So you're talking like major volatility in a name that I don't think I'd be able to handle it even with your money. But Yelp actually to me is very interesting because they've captured really the local market for advertisers, and it's something that everybody uses, especially when you're anywhere. And they've got eyeballs and dollars where it counts. So
I've even used Yelp, and I'm like an internet dinosaur, troglodyte. Discounting went down 10% from December. I think that's a good sign as well, Danny.
I like the loan space to some degree, but I'm playing kind of the long-term car because people are keeping their cars longer. People are maybe getting a little smarter about buying cars and saying, you know what, this thing will last for another 100,000 miles. So I like Monroe Muffler. In fact, this is a company that, because there's less and less bays out there to actually get your car fixed, they are the one to beat. And I think that because they've been acquiring some companies,
right. And for those listening on the radio, that's MNRO, and it has a chart that's the exact opposite of Hillary's. Right?
And a tiny, tiny dividend.
And a tiny dividend. Advance Auto and those names, too, in that same kind of area. You like that?
Yeah, they're monsters, though. These guys are a little bit.
I like the dealers, still. I still like the dealers. I think those, as far as I go, they've got what I'm calling a grumpy meter, and it measures the happy to grumpy people ratio. So, Danny, upon further review, are they pushing this too far?
No, I love it. I think it's very touchy-feely, and I do think it's absolutely true. I mean, we all have seen that guy or gal who has just poisoned a whole team or a whole crew of people. And to be able to measure that, analytics around that, maybe make them happier, encourage them to work out a little bit, I think are a good thing.
30 years ago.
Perfect setup. This happened back in October. It came back, it filled the gap and went higher. It just filled the gap the last couple of days. This is the time to buy. It just bounced off support. It's probably going to hit a new all-time high, triple digits very soon.
You got any restoration hardware stuff at home?
You betcha. Are you kidding? I got class.
I'm looking at them shoes. I'm thinking the shoes might be from Restoration Hardware.
I love restoration. So I'm a big homeware kind of it's my thing. I love to look at catalogs, and they send out that massive catalog, which I think, thank goodness, they stopped doing because that was a big waste of paper. However, the quality of the product is amazing, and as people are not really moving up in terms of their houses, they're going to move up in terms of what they've got in their houses. So I do like.
We love it. We've got one of those big giant sofas. All right, guys, time now, real quick, for the marching orders. But I'm going to have to ask our resident leftist what she thinks about this whole story.
Well, I think it's actually a story that's inherent in any governmental system, welfare, where you see that
they made it so
easy,
Danny. Look, Danny, you go in and you say, I got a headache. They say, okay. I mean, 29 years old, strong, able-bodied.
Absolutely abhorrent. I'm with you 100%.
This grown man was crying on TV because he was like, he's a beautiful guy, this James. I'm glad he got 200 grand. I hope he gets a lot more.